Hello, Stay on Roblox here, and today I'm going to be doing a beginner's guide to Roblox Studio. This is going to be complete beginner's guide. So basically, like you've never used Roblox Studio before. So if you don't know what Roblox Studio is, which you probably do since you clicked on this video, it's what you use to make games on Roblox. So what you use to build games, script games, or even just make models or something like that, right? And so this is just going to be a guide telling you what each of these buttons and things do in the areas, what each of them are. I think there's a page on the Wiki which is very similar to this, so I'll probably put that in the description if I can find it. But yeah, okay, here we go. So when you open Roblox Studio, you should have this view, and from here you can get a plain, like basically just a plain place with just one brick along the bottom of the place, or you can get the same as a base plate, but it's grass as one brick along the bottom of the place, or you can use one of these places which is made by Roblox and then edit it yourself. Personally, I don't really use these at all because I kind of think it's kind of cheating, but if you're going to start Roblox Studio from a complete beginner's perspective, you should probably have a look at these and see how they're made, because that will help you understand how stuff is built on Roblox. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be using a base plate. So I'll just click on base plate. Oh, by the way, I'm in new project, not on that screen. So, what are these things on the side, you ask? Right, so here you've got the Toolbox, which is where you can look for models. So you can say find a house, and these are things that other people have made, which you can use, right? So they've chosen to upload these to the Toolbox, so you can use them yourself. So you can just take any of these by holding down the mouse on them and dragging it into the base plate like this. See? So now I have this house, right? Made by someone else who's been kind enough to publish it to Roblox. So I'll just delete that by using the delete key, or I can right click and click that, but I'll just use the delete key, so delete key on my keyboard. The other stuff this Toolbox does is you can look at other people's meshes, other people's decals, and other people's audio. So audio is music or any sound that people have uploaded. Decals is any images people have uploaded. Meshes are like it's like a 3D model. So I'll show you actually. So say I have a knife, right? And I take it here. So that is a mesh. See, it's very detailed, but it's one brick and it's uploaded as an FBX file. I actually have a tutorial on meshes, so there'll probably be a link to that in the description as well. So this is a mesh, so I can delete that. I'll teach you the controls in a second if you're wondering how I was moving them. And then you've got all this stuff. So you've got if you're in a group which you are a developer in, and you're allowed to edit group assets, then you'll have the audios that the group owns, you'll have the images, the decals that the group owns, you'll have the meshes that the group owns, and you'll have the models that the group owns to use. So if I click on this, then I'm in a few groups. So I've got this group here, and this has stuff in it, right? So I've got, yeah, right. And then if you scroll even further down, you have your own audios, so stuff you've uploaded yourself. You've got your own pictures, your own decals that you've uploaded yourself, your own meshes you've uploaded yourself, and your own models. And then you've got sets, which are like groups of any of these. And then you've got, what is this? My subscribed set. So this is other people's sets that you're subscribed to. So you can see everything inside those sets. So I'm subscribed to this set, which is a load of faces by Johannes Kruger, so I can do like the stop motion videos I do. That you probably don't need to be concerned about the subscribe sets on my set. And then you've got stuff that you've used recently in Studio. So you've got recent audio, recent decals, recent meshes, recent models, and these are sets that are made by the Roblox account. So most of the time you won't really need these. I just moved it. Oops. Okay, so what you're actually going to need for this, for when you start off on Roblox, what you probably really want to see is these four. You really want to learn these four and possibly these four. There. You don't really need to know any of this stuff. You'll just pick that up as you go along. So you just need these four and these four. So you need my audio, my decals, my meshes, my models, and you need audio, decals, meshes, model. Right. So now, what is this thing? What is this thing here? This is the Explorer panel, and this tells you everything that's in your game. So here, I've literally just got a brick, right? So it's got the base plate, which is this brick, and you can see here. I don't think you can't really see it, but I'll just go to it. Here, it has a blue line around the outside. That shows I've selected it, so I can just click in the sky, and I'll unselect it. I can click there again, I'll select it again, right? So that's the only brick, and this sort of Lego brick sort of thing shows that that's a part. And then we've got terrain. So even though I haven't got any terrain, and I'll go over terrain after, that will still be there. And then you've got the camera, which is the position of your camera. So it will, it will change. And then, so that's the workspace. That's everything that you can see in the game, and that can be, and all the stuff that can be, what do you call it? Interacted with by the player, right? And then you've got this, which is all of the players who are in the server. So obviously there's no players in the server right now because I'm making a place, so there's no one there, right? Because this isn't a server. And then you've got lighting, which is the brightness of the place and everything like this. So I can change the brightness here, and you can change the ambient, which is how dark it is and stuff like this. It's not actually how dark it is; it's the color of the outside light. And then you've got the time of day, and you've got fog, so I can change fog to like 100, and it will see. Right, so just set it to a really high number if you don't want any fog at all. Yeah, so then you can edit the color of the font, all this stuff. You can play around with this, and then you've got replicated first. This is you're very unlikely to need to know what it does for now, and you're very unlikely to need to use it at all. This is for storing anything that you might want to get from a script, which is something you'll probably not want to need to use early on either. This is scripts that you want to use in the server, which is something you're also not going to need. And then this is for storing things in which you're not going to need either, so unless you're doing some scripting. And then this is GUI. So this is something that shows up, this graphic user interface, so something that shows up on the screen of the player, but it's not something that they can walk into or anything like that. So I'll put a GUI into this. I'll do a separate tutorial on GUIs. I'll do a separate tutorial on this, possibly that, and lighting and workspace as well, probably. But for now, I'm just going over the simple things of what they do. So the starter pack is... Oh, sorry, I was going to show you what the GUI does. So this is starter GUI, so I'll just show you what the sort of thing this does is. So if I get screen GUI, and I'll put... You don't need to pay attention to what I'm doing here. I'm just doing a presenting what this does. So here you go. You can see this on the top side of the screen. So you can move your view around, but this stays there. That's always going to be there. That's not going to move. So that's something on the player's screen, and when it's in starter GUI, it goes in every player that joins the game. So now we've got starter pack, and this is tools that will be inside the player's backpack, so what they can use as a player. So I don't know, you can put a sword in it or something, and then they'll have that sword when they join the game. So everything with starter on it is what is going to be given to the player at the beginning. So starter GUI is the GUIs that will be on the player's screen, starter pack is the tools that will be in the player, and starter player is what will be in the player by default, and you probably won't need to change starter player at all either. And then we've got soundscape, which manages all the sounds in the place. You've got chat, so that manages the chat, and then you've got HTTP for communicating with third-party websites, so other websites, but you don't need to use that either. And then you've got insert service, which is for inserting models from your models. So all you really need to think about right now is these three here, and this, and this. Possibly not that. So mainly what you're going to want to look at to start with is the workspace. That's going to be your main concern. So I'm going to close that, right? So we've covered the Explorer, we've covered the Toolbox, and now I'll just go to properties. So if I go back to the workspace and I select the base plate, which is this block here, it will tell me all of the properties of the base plate. So it tells me the color of the base plate, so I can change that. See, I can change it to whatever color I want from here. And it shows me the material of it. So this is just a plastic, which is the default material for all parts. So I can change that to say grass, and it will turn into grass, or anything like that. So these are textures, really. So you can change the color of the texture as well, like this. See? So I can make a lot of things. So if I wanted to make hay, what you do is you have grass texture, and then you put a orange or a yellow one, or something like that, right? There are lots of different ways to make different things. And the reflectance is how reflective it is, but this won't actually reflect things like a mirror will. This will just reflect the sky, so it will just give a sort of effect that it's reflecting. And the reflectance doesn't work with textures, so you have to have it on the default plastic to see the reflectance. And I don't know if you can really see that. Hold on, I'll just put it on full reflectance. There we go. So you can see the sky in that part now if I just make it smooth. There we go. So now you can see the sky, right? So this is reflecting the sky, but if I put something here, so say I put a part here, then you can see it's not reflecting the part, it only reflects the sky. And I think that's because it would use up too much processing power for Roblox. So if I go back to this part, I look at the properties, I can change lots of different things. So I'll put this back, and I can change how transparent it is, so I can make it half. So this is half see-through, so I can see halfway through that. So say I put a part here, sorry, there, right? Then I can, if I go underneath, I can see the part through there, but there is the part is still there. So the transparency is how transparent the part is. So if I delete this part, and then you've got all the other properties of that, and I'll go over the properties in another tutorial as well. So then we've got this top panel, which is probably the most important part, really. So you'll start off automatically on the home part of this, and I'll just briefly go through each thing and what it does, and I'll go into more depth in this the next tutorial I do. So we've got the select tool, so this is for selecting parts, and you can't select the base plate when it first comes into the game because it's got a property ticked called locked, which means you can't select it yourself. So if I untick that, then that means if I use the select tool here, I can click it and I'll select it. And then we've got the move tool, so if I click this, and then using these X, Y, Z things, I can move it around like this part, right? And then I've got the scale tool, so if I click it again, I can make it bigger or smaller or taller or what do you call it? Shorter. There you go. Or you can rotate it like this, rotate the part around. And then we've got collisions. So right now, if I join the game and I stood on this, it would let me stand on it. It would be like standing on the floor. But if I go here and I go collisions, I click collisions, right? And then I unclick. Oh, sorry, no. Sorry, I said that wrong. Just ignore everything I just said for the last 2 seconds about collisions. What collisions does is it stops you putting 2 bricks inside each other. So if I have 2 bricks here, I just duplicated the brick, by the way, if you didn't notice. And the collisions is on. And if I try and move this brick inside this brick, it won't work because it won't let me. But if I go here and I take collisions off, then I can move it inside like that. So that's pretty useful when you're doing stuff like making something that uses physics, because otherwise you'll get glitching. So I'm just going to delete this part I've got here. Sorry, I've got a cold. I know it's pretty disgusting when I'm doing that. And then we've got join here. I don't actually know what that does. Sorry, you're very unlikely to need to use that. I've been using Studio for like 4 or 5 years and I still don't know what that does. I think it's pretty new actually. And then this is just telling you that you've got the toolbox open, so if I click that, it'll take the toolbox away. If I click it again, it'll put the toolbox back. And I've got a part, so I can make something. So if I click this, it'll create a part for me. So here's the part I've just created there. And then if I click this arrow at the bottom, I can create lots of different parts. So I can create stuff like a sphere, a wedge, a cylinder, right? And then these are all the textures that I showed you before in the properties. So if I get a part here, I select it, and then I choose a material, I can change the material. So if I made it, say, grass, then I can change the material of that. So wooden plate, stuff like that, right? And then we've got the color again, just like in the properties. You can edit that in either the properties or here, it doesn't make a difference. Change the color of the part like this, right? And then we've got groups. So if I have 2 parts, So I'll just duplicate this using this duplicate button here, and then I'll move the part out of that, and then I hold down the Shift key on my keyboard while selecting this, and then select the next part, and then I click Group here. It will group them together as one part. So if I select that, I can move them both at the same time. So I don't really need that at the moment, but I will. And then you've got ungroup, so I can ungroup these like that. And then you've got anchor here. So when you make a part by default, it won't be anchored. So if I make a part here, right? Then I can anchor it, but for some reason it's not letting me anchor it actually. Well, okay. Well, what this should be doing is allowing me to anchor it or unanchor it like this, right? So every time I anchor it, it means that the part will not move. It's stuck in that position unless I use a script command, which is not for what you need to know now. If you select a part and you anchor it, that part will stay in the same place it is when it's in game. So that's for like walls or something like that, right? And then if you click it again and this black box isn't around it, then it will move when you play the game. So it might fall on the ground. It'll act like, say, something in real life would, right? But if you anchor it, it will stay in the same place. And then you've got all these things here. So these are all terrain. So these are creating like grass, water, mountains, lava, all this. And you've got this, which is for testing the game. So if I do this, then it will play the game and it will put a character in the game. So it'll put me in the game. So I'll show you. So if I click to play, then it will spawn me in the game and I can play the game just like a normal player. So then I just click stop here to stop it. And then you can also do run, which will play the game, but you won't put your character in it. So it will just play it to show you what will happen. Excuse me. So if you click run, then it will literally just play the game and show you what will happen. So I can show you actually. If I make this part unanchored, which it is, and then I run the game, then it will fall to the ground because the game is playing. And if I move this up again, it will fall because the game's playing. But if I did that here, it would just stay in place because it's not playing anymore. So now we've got the home done. We're going to go to some models. So here we've got all the same controls. This is just a sort of more accurate. It's something you don't really need to use. It's just a very accurate way of using these transform. And then we've got lock here, so you can make the part. You can make the part editable or not editable. So if I lock it, then I can't. If I lock this part here, say I've locked it, then if I take the select tool, I can't select that part anymore. It's impossible. I can't. But if I go here and I say unlock all, then I can select it again. So that's literally, you don't use that much, but it can be used for stuff like if you wanted to put a part that you didn't want to be edited, but there were parts above it that you wanted to edit, then that's pretty useful. So then you've got collisions like just before, and I don't know what that does. You don't need to know what that does. This is just more. This is the increment of the rotation here and the increment of the moving. So if I click the move here, and it's currently on that, which means that it will move at a very small increment. It will move basically as I move it. But if I change this to 1, then it will move at 1 stud every time I move my mouse, instead of it being exactly the amount I want it to be. So if I change that back to 0, then I can move it as much as I like. And then the rotate is basically the same thing. If I make this 10, say, then I rotate it like this. But if I make it 0, I can rotate it incredibly accurately. The good thing about this is that you can rotate stuff really accurately so that it will be exact every time. So if I say made it 100 and then I rotated it, so there, and then if I had another part and I rotated this part, then I know they've both been rotated by the same amount. See, they're both at a right angle to each other. So now we've got here, so have we got all these things which I've already shown, apart from surface. So what surface does, it will let you put different surfaces on your parts. So stuff like smooth surface, so it'll take these brick things away. Then you've got smooth without an outline. So if you look here, you can see an outline there, but if I click it again, there's no outline anymore there at all. And then you've got studs, so that's the thing you saw before. Inlets, which is the inverse of studs. And then you've got universal, I think that's just sort of in between the two. and then a weld, which will allow you to weld two unanchored parts together and they'll stay stuck together. So I can do that, and if I put this part on top of it like this, then I unanchored both of them, see, they're both unanchored now, and then I move them together, and if I run the game, then they'll stay stuck together, see, and if I move this part up, they'll stay together, even if I like rotate them or something like this, right, they'll stay stuck together, because they're welded. So that's what the weld does. And then we've got, what else have we got? We've got hinges. So this is so that if I put a hinge there, then this will rotate around that hinge. So you can't see the hinge. There's the hinge. So if you put a part on top of the hinge, then the hinge will rotate around. So I'll show that as well. So the hinge will spin that part around. But for some reason it's not doing that. I don't know why. But usually it will spin this around. What else have we got? So we've got a motor here. So this is, oh yeah, that's why. Because a motor is a hinge that will continuously spin around by itself, and a hinge is just a hinge. So it's basically a non-powered motor. Sorry. Okay. So if we click run, then this will spin around now because it's on a motor. So the motor is providing power for this. Sorry about me. Blowing my nose all the time. I'm very sick right now. Okay, so what else is there? We've got, so these are all the surfaces done. And we've already gone over the group. So this is unions here. We've got next up. So what you can do with unions is if you take two parts, you can make them one part. What you usually do with this is make like something that's very detailed into one part. So if I separate these, and if I did this, say, I don't know, if I made something weird like that, some weird part with that, right? Obviously there's no part in Roblox like that, but if I select these both and then union them, then that becomes a one part that I can just move around and it will be manipulable as a one part as well. So that's very useful in some situations. To go back, I'm just doing Control Z, but if you want to do that, you can just use these two here. This is backwards, this is forwards. So undo, redo. Okay, so these are constraints, which you don't really need to worry about right now. And then we've got effects, so like fire, explosions, lights, smoke, sparkles, more lights, and then we've got particles. You don't need to worry about those either. You can play around with them though, they're quite useful. Then we've got a spawn here, so this is where the player will spawn if you play the game. So if I put it there, and then I try and play the game like this, then I will spawn on that spawn location. Go back there, I can delete that now, I don't really need it. And then we've got advanced objects, which just shows you all of the objects you can use in Studio. And then we've got models, so these are things that you might have stored on your computer that you can use in-game. And then we've got services, so you don't need to worry about these much right now unless you're trying to make teams. So if you want to make a team, and there'll be a tutorial about this as well probably, you just go in here and drag it in, double click it, and then you can put a team into there. And people will be automatically put in teams, and you can do that with spawn locations as well. So I'll just go over that in our tutorial. And then we've got scripts, and then you don't need to worry about those either unless you're trying to do scripting. And I'm probably going to do some scripting tutorials soon as well. And then we've got terrain. So this is the same as this here, but it's just easier to use because there's a tab just for it. And then we've got test. So this is for playing your game just like before. So this is for running or playing, and then this is for testing out scripts you might have made, so something you've coded, and then you can pair your phone or your tablet or another computer to it to test it. And then you've got servers, so these are servers that will be hosted by your computer, so you can test out what your game will be like if it's on a server, and then you can test it on different size screens, your game, and then you can change the actual size of these here, and then you can mute the audio and see what the physics will be like if you use it. You don't need to worry about these really, or any of this. Actually, you don't need to, apart from this. You might use that or these. And then you've got view here. So this is just whether you want to see this tab, this tab, this tab, or this tab, or anything like this. So if I deselect Toolbox, the Toolbox will go away. If I deselect, say, Explorer here, the Explorer panel will go away. If I deselect Properties, the Properties panel will go away. So if any of these aren't showing, then that's probably the reason they're not showing. Command bar is this. You don't need to worry about this for now. That's only used when you're scripting stuff. And then you got, if you want to show the axes when you're doing, if you want to show here, see in the corner, it shows which way you're facing, really. But that's not very useful at all. And then you can just do a full screen studio like this. I don't use that very often. You can screenshot, you can record, or you can show a grid here. So this just lets you be more accurate when you're moving stuff around. I don't use that either. And then this just lets you change screens, but you don't need to do that because you can just click on the screens to change screens. What else have we got? We've got stats. We don't need to do any of these. Just ignore them, they're not important. And then you've got plugins. So these are things you can download to help you with stuff that Studio won't let you do yourself, or make it easier for stuff to do stuff that Studio will let you do. So say this thing here, this is a camera save plugin. If I click save position and then I move around somewhere else, say if I can click say load position, and it will move me back to the position I was in before. So that's basically it for my first Studio tutorial. Leave any comments if I was confusing or anything like that. I'm going to try and... I don't think I'm going to have any specific schedule for that, for uploading these. I mean, I might upload another one today, because this takes hardly any time to record compared to most of my videos. Because obviously... I don't really believe in these scheduled videos. I just want to upload it as soon as I've made the video, because I just want people to be able to use it as quickly as possible. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.